Okay, here's an example of a two-tailed test. While I'm reading this problem, you'll notice that it uses the word is, so I know that that's an equal to, and says that the mean is 40 milligrams. So there's no direction in that statement, meaning there's no greater than or less than, so then the ha is not equal to. The ho is your claim, so let's write that, and then let's write everything else that they give you. They tell you you have a random sample of 30, that the random sample has a mean of 39.2 with a standard deviation of 7.5, and an alpha level of 0.01. You are then asked to see if you have evidence to reject the company's claim. So I'm going to choose to use Z, because although sigma is unknown, n is greater than or equal to 30, and I'm assuming the normal distribution. And so to find Z, we've done this 100 times now, you take the mean, you subtract the population mean, divide by the standard deviation, which is being divided by the square root of n. You find a z-squared, you look it up on your table. Okay, so we get a z-squared of approximately 0.58. Sorry, that's a negative 0.58. And so if you look at that, negative 0.58 is over here's 0, negative 0.58 is somewhere over here. And which one would give you a tail, so to speak? So the smaller piece, so either to the right or to the left. And so we need to the left, so the left is less than. So for a two-tailed test, the ha is not giving you any direction. You have to find the direction. And so your p-value statement is going to read like this. 2 times the probability that z could be less than negative 0.58. So we need 2 times the value you find from your table. And I got 2795, so 0.2795. Now I did cheat and use technology because I have no idea where my table is, and I didn't feel like going online because I'm being lazy. So your number might be off a little bit, but not enough for us to change our decision. So I end up with a p-value that's about 5591. That's huge. That's the probability that we could find a random sample of 30 bottles that would have an average of 39.2, even though the real average was 40. So because the p-value is greater than the alpha level, we have to fail to reject the null. So, if we fail to reject the null, can we reject the claim? No, because the claim is the null. So, the answer to our question is nope. So, a two-tailed test, again, you have to pick up this direction based on the area here. So, you've got to decide, am I going to do greater than or less than based on where the z-score is. Okay? Alright, in this next problem, if you notice, I gave you data. So this example is going to be a way to use your technology to help do some of your grunt work. So let's read through what this one's saying. A company that sells school supplies says that teachers spend on average more than $550 of their own money. Do you hear the word equal to in that statement? No. So that's your ha. They spend more than $550 on school supplies in a year. So the complement to that would be the ho, which would be less than or equal to, and the claim in this case is the ha. If I keep reading, I find out that I did a random sample of 24, and I have an alpha level of 5%, and I want to know if I have enough evidence to support this claim. Well, I didn't give you X bar, and I didn't give you S. So you have to calculate them. And you're welcome to calculate them by hand because you're insane. Or you can go to statcrunch, enter in the 24 values, go to stat, summary stat, columns, and pick out one variable statistics and hit enter. Well, when I do that, I get all this information. Well, what do I need? The mean is 605, so let's write that down. The mean is 605, and what was our standard deviation? Standard deviation is 150.8. Now, that might be too much rounding, but I can't remember more decimals than that. So 150.8. Now I can finish the problem. So are you going to use Z or are you going to use T here? Well, definitely T, because what? N is less than 30, sigma is unknown. We're going to assume a normal distribution. That's me writing assume normal distribution. And now we need to find T. T is the mean from the sample, subtract the mean of the population, divide by standard deviation being divided by the square root of n. So let's get our T value. Okay, so my T value, I got 1.79-ish. The degrees of freedom that go with this problem are 23. And I need to go to my table and look this up. This is going to be very interesting. Just kidding. It's not interesting at all. But the table is not going to give us an exact answer. And that's going to bother some of you math nerds out there. So hold please. Okay, so I have the t-distribution table pulled up from your textbook. Are we running a one-tailed or a two-tailed test here? We're running a two-tailed test. No, we're running a one-tailed test because we had direction, right? What were our degrees of freedom? 24, 23, Miss May. And what was your T? So your T was 1.79. Well, that's close to 1.714. I don't know if you can see right here. But it's between 1.714 and 2.069. So I have to scroll back up. And for one-tailed test, the answer is between 0.05 and 0.025. So for making decisions, that's close enough. That's all I need. So my p-value, according to my table, is between 0.05 and 0.025. Now, the alpha level is 0.05. So is your p-value bigger or smaller than 0.05 if I have to be between these two values? So the p-value is smaller than the alpha level. What does that mean? We reject the null. If we reject the null, do we have evidence for the claim? So if we reject the null, we're saying we don't like this guy, throw him out, and so this is our best guess. Oh man, Miss May, you're not even on the right problem. I'm going home. One more time. I'm rejecting the null, so we're keeping this one, which was the claim. So do you have evidence to support the claim? Yes. And that would be our final conclusion on this problem, that we reject the null, which gives evidence to support the claim. Now, we need to investigate this T nonsense just a little bit more. So I'm going to go back into statcrunch because in your homework, sometimes it will ask you for you to use technology. So let me show you how you can get statcrunch to do the hypothesis test for you. If you go into stat, this was a T-stat problem, and you have one sample that you looked at with data. So T-stat, one sample with data. Tell it where the data is. And then if you look at your choices here, it's saying you're running a hypothesis test for mu. And you can never put direction on mu according to this test, but that's okay. So we just need to say that we want, let me edit that. I'm on my tablet this morning and we're not getting along very well. So we can't adjust the ho, but we can adjust the ha, and you wanted to test that it was greater than, right? That the ha was greater than? Wasn't that your claim? That they spend at least, or they spend more than? Okay. So once I get the direction on the ha correct, and I tell it to compute, then it'll come in and it'll give me the t-stat, which matches what we got, and then it'll give me an exact p-value. Do you see that? And most students like to see that actual number better than just using the table. So we went to stat, T-stat, one sample with data. Okay? So that's how you can use your technology to run your test for you. It doesn't always work so well with the two samples, but in our case, we're only doing one sample, and so you can definitely pick up that p-value instead of using the table. You can use StatCrunch. All right, hope this helps. Have a great day.